I suppose if I could start by asking what is essentially rather a broad question, why should we concern ourselves at all with a sustainable approach to IT?
Half the planet's online and the other half's coming, so it's central to what we do. And of course, we want to make sure that every time we use technology, we're not adding to the climate crisis. And that's why I'm really proud at Google. I joined in 2007 and we became carbon neutral then. And we've gone further to say, actually, we want to be carbon free by 2030.
Do you see technology occupying an sort of important place in the drive to become more sustainable? Because I'm thinking, because tech is now so much an integral part of everything we do you think it has a bigger responsibility to deliver on its potential here?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of pieces there. One, you want your technology itself to have zero impact. It's really important to look for those people who are not yet well connected by technology. And we saw this in education in the lockdown. Schools, about a third of the PC stock in schools is sitting in cupboards unused. So taking old kit that could have gone into landfill and turning it into modern, secure, fast machines is one of the ways we can both increase access but also make part of our approach to the circular economy work better.
I'm interested in where you see sort of the impetus for change coming from. And by that I mean, do you see global or perhaps national legislation being the key driver for change? Or do you see it more of a business or indeed a personal option here, a personal choice?
I think one of the things we've seen in the pandemic is that communities, companies and government had to work together. And I think that is absolutely the recipe for tackling the climate crisis. So we need regulation and we need to see COP26 being really successful. Companies need to do a lot more themselves, as I talked about what we're doing at Google, in order to decarbonise their supply chains and help their customers make better choices. But communities too, whether it's recycling efforts or coming together to look at what you can do with ride sharing or whatever else. So I think you need all three of those things to work together. And I'm actually somewhat optimistic as we see generation change happening, as we see people getting more and more concerned about the very visible impacts of climate change, that we'll see an acceleration of progress. All eyes are on Glasgow later in this year to see whether governments can come together and make a step change. I mean, it really is urgent, and let's hope that they feel that pressure on their backs.
I mean, clearly Google is a leader in big tech with benchmarks to set, not just for Google, but for the whole industry, really. So given that, how is Google approaching the idea of a more sustainable IT sector? And indeed, do you feel a sort of responsibility to lead here?
One of the things that has kept me at Google for 15 years is the fact that we really have tried to be a pioneer on climate. We want to become zero carbon. That means powered entirely by renewables 24/7. Now, we don't actually know how to do that, but I think that's one of the things companies can do, is set a bold target and figure out how to make progress towards it by pioneering, but then by sharing with the industry what we're doing, showing people that it's possible, sharing some of the technology that does that, we can really help the whole industry transform. And I think that's one of the things we want to do. None of us know how to do this perfectly, but by working together, we can make more progress.
So how important do you feel it is for the industry as a whole for circular computing to have brought a sort of legitimacy to laptop reuse in the shape of this as new certification? I mean, do you think that is sending the right message to the channel?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that the circular computing initiative here to certify for reuse is really important, because people worry about technology. Is this machine going to work? How does it all work? It seems like magic sometimes, and having certification so you can trust that the machine will work well for you is really, really important.
Do you feel that certification is actually going to negate some of the risks or perceived risks associated with laptop reuse by the channel and indeed by the end user?
The remanufacturing standard that's being launched is really helpful in people being able to trust that a recycled machine is something that they can use safely. And I think that level of confidence will help us to get connectivity and digital access to many, many more people. I'm really struck in the pandemic how stark the statistics are about children who weren't able to connect to schools.
In November, of course, the UK hosts COP26 in Glasgow. Do you believe that global events like those will give the climate crisis, sustainability, indeed the circular economy, significantly more impetus than it has in the past?
Yeah, look, we're at a really pivotal moment in time, aren't we? For climate and the climate crisis, and all eyes are on COP26. But I think, I'm encouraged by our experience through the pandemic that governments and companies and communities coming together can make for real progress. We've seen that response. We need the same urgency of response to the climate crisis. And the other thing that's encouraging is that we know that the technology we need to attack the climate crisis is already here. And the circular economy and computing plays a part in that. Clean technology and renewables, people can see in things like wildfires and flooding and some of the natural phenomena we're seeing, they can see now that this is here today. And I think that has encouraged everyone to think again. The other thing that's happened is the pandemic has broken all of our habits. All of our consumption and travel and other habits have been broken for 18 months or more. And I think, if viewers are starting to get back into normal life patterns again, we're all conscious that we're making new habits. And some of those habits can be deliberately better or different habits, maybe about exercising, maybe about the way you travel, how often you need to go into offices if you're an office worker. So we've got this unique moment in time when we can apply some of the things we've learned from this terrible pandemic to the climate crisis and really look at how we can treat it with more urgency, but also join up across the world through governments, through companies and communities to tackle the crisis.